Hey Ulf, how are you?
Hi Stephen, I'm fine.
Last time we spoke, you had said that you were concerned about the pace at which service providers were virtualizing the core of their network with NFV. Are you still concerned, or have they moved along a little bit since then?
Well, I think the promise of the virtualization came with the notion that this was happening in the cloud markets and the technology would spread in and we would get that same kind of technology as we were building core networks for the future. And with that notion, we were thinking in the industry there will be tremendous opportunity to be able to get services faster to the market. We will be able to use technologies as SDN to guide the way that services were interoperating, and we will be able to use it as an innovation platform for operators, for our customers in the market. Turned out a little bit that it was more looked at as a potential to reduce the costs, and from the OpEx point of view, the cost reduction is definitely going to be there.
Right.
But from the CapEx point of view, due to a cumbersome system integration situation without standardization and so forth, this slowed down the events and slowed down the ability for customers of us to try to implement this. And there's even been some examples where it's been so difficult that some has given up. So I think that is now changing, and there is a more positive trend in the market of asking for more pre-integration and rather to use the open standards in terms of OpenNFV and others to try to speed this up. So I'm a bit more optimistic.
Right.
I see more discussions that are more constructive in that way.
So we're learning, aren't we?
We are learning.
It's gone from this sort of theoretical utopia where everything's open and everything works together and it just sort of all comes together. That's not going to happen, is it? So in some ways we're sort of seeing a reverse evolution to the point where people are suddenly recognizing, hey, there was a reason why we had these very strong relationships with one or two companies and we wanted to buy everything from them.
Well, I think so. And to be honest, learning means everybody learning. Ericsson is also learning a lot. But I think we have some learnings that we could have drawn more from, and that was when we implemented IMS once in this industry. We made it into a very, very small component, huge architecture, which required also too much integration. And I think we're learning from that technology implosion requires us to more provide this as pre-integrated suites to the market.
Right.
And I think the trend, both from the demand side and the supply side, is going in that direction.
So if you have a service provider today and they look at the business case for NFV in the core, they may be looking at it and saying, hey, actually the cost of the systems integration outweighs the savings, ergo I don't want to buy from 20 different companies, I want to buy from one or two companies.
I think that's what's going to happen.
But they still get the benefits.
Especially if the cost of the both CapEx and OpEx can be kept down to a level that it beats the over system integrated, complicated, and perhaps not well functioning, and high risk taking. And we're not saying that because we want to control the market. I think this is going to be maybe events that follow will lead to a development in that direction, and I think it's going to be necessary.
Well, I mean, other developments which aren't technology related but are business related suggest that there is an element of a peaceable kingdom emerging, regardless of the problems with system integration. And the key example of that is the partnership which you've established between yourselves and Cisco, which has been sort of nobody saw it coming. And has created huge ramifications for the industry. How is it going, and what are you doing with Cisco right now?
Well, first of all, we are extremely proud and happy that we were able to create what we call the next generation strategic partnership. And what that really means is that we have a number of common goals and strategies that we share. And we don't have to go through some cumbersome integrations or anything like that. We can just start working from day one. Cisco has obviously a very, very strong portfolio when it comes to IP routing, from the edge to core and other routers, where Ericsson is able to supply those to customers and support customers using that. We're also able to use our services organization to do complicated system integration projects, including routing all the way into the different parts of the network and so forth, for operators and for customers of ours. It's also so that the partnership includes development, and we are looking at developing and started the discussions on how we're going to do that for control software of entire networks. In other words, management and control, orchestration, those kind of areas.
For cloud networks, for virtualized networks?
Really
or just
for networks, and wherever networks are needed.
Yeah.
So for the market of operators and service providers.
Do you think there will be some cross-pollination of Cisco's IP technology and its NFV know-how with your hardware, for example, with the HDS 8000? Because that's an exciting combination, to envision best-of-class technology coming together, and it would seem to simplify things, not just for service providers, but potentially for enterprises as well, wouldn't it?
It would, and I think there is great opportunities for that, and I think there is a tremendous opportunity for Cisco and Ericsson now to be able to address both the service provider markets with those kind of solutions, but also start to sort out a little bit in the very fragmented and software piece oriented virtualized market in the cloud side.
Yeah.
And we certainly could do things there that will have a big meaning and a big impact in the market.
How are things going with 5G? I thought we were going to have to wait till 2020. I mean, I've seen the first handset. It weighs 750 pounds. But now everybody's talking about 5G. It seems like one of these technologies which just gets pulled out of the future into the present just through sheer determination and excitement. I mean, is that what's happening? Are we going to see it a couple of years sooner than we thought?
We have had a tremendously good last 2-3 years now of trials, testing, and also most important discussions in the industry why we need a new generation.
Absolutely.
And of course, the network society that Ericsson talks about, and which is similar to the visions of what we see in CES in Las Vegas, for example, with just about every product is getting connected, and Internet of Things is one seminar after another, one keynote speech after the other on that topic. And all of that makes us understand that there is a new set of requirements. There is a big need for a much higher bandwidth. There is a very big need for a much lower latency. There is a big need for much more efficient power usage on devices, sensor, whatever that is. And there is a big need for a different performance level than we can actually see from the networks that we have today, which are primarily oriented towards smartphones and the tremendous growth of smartphones. And as that is happening, we understand in the industry that we have to come together to see what changes those will have on the networks. All that was the pre-alignment phase. And now we're starting to align in the industry. And I can hear and I can see here in CES Las Vegas that there's tremendous alignment on what that really is, and we're moving into the standardization phase.
So it's
now we're going to standardize it.
Happening faster.
And 16, 17 standardized. Well, then you could say that in parallel with that, the use case of 5G is already here. I mean, with the use case of 5G requires operators to already start to say, we want this early, we want this fast. And I think there is a little bit of a competition out there in terms of saying, I want to be first. Yeah. And at the same time, I think the industry has a good chance of testing and trying some of this technology with the very early efforts. I think Ericsson has already announced that we're part of at least 14 trials or something like that in the market. So
that's fantastic.
And many are doing that. And I think that's a very important part of everybody learning and understanding how new technology like beamforming, massive MIMO, distributed MIMO can be used in a better new modulation, can be used and put in place for the creation of 5G. At the same time, though, it's very important for the industry to make sure that this becomes a standard, a global standard, because that's the scale advantage that we have built all our success on up to now. That's the reason why there are more than 3 billion smartphones in the market. So we need to understand that that's our success and that's our history, and that's going to provide us with our future strategy.
Has there been progress in getting consensus around 5G this year?
I think so.
Year?
I mean, that's what's happening here in Las Vegas. It's a lot of consensus talk. I think that looking forward to Barcelona and Mobile World Congress, I'm sure there's going to be plenty of meetings and discussions on getting that. I think Ericsson's view is that we want to help and provide as much support as we can to create the global standard, to make sure that there is openness and transparency in the process between the companies to create the global ecosystem that we so well need to
Yeah.
be successful with the and this is a very ambitious agenda. It's very ambitious to create a global standards for all the Internet of Things, all the things being connected.
And you're putting a few $1 billion a year towards that effort, so it's
Putting a
obviously
big amount, if
a
I can
big
put it like that.
amount. Yeah, it's a great story, and we're really excited to follow it. Thank you so much for being here with us today again.
Thank you, Stephen. Thanks for doing it.
Cheers.